Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/beat and browse an unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/BEAT.
And I see the robin.
I'm just searching for equality, looking for some reason, no finding no apologies. But I do want opportunity, hard work, it ain't new to me.
Hey guys, it's your girl Rach Da Gem, back for another week of Melanin Boulevard. Today, of course, we have an amazing guest. DJ is on the line. How are you doing today, DJ?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come on Melanin Boulevard.
Definitely. I'm excited.
Thank you. So one thing I love about like Instagram is you always get to meet new people, and that's how we met. We met on Instagram.
Definitely. I think social media is a really great platform if you use it right to meet some amazing people.
Mm-hmm. I love the podcast. I'm always amazed by the content that you put out because every day it's something else. And I'm like, man, how does he do that? I'm tired. Like, I'm trying to keep up with these two shows that I do. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you stay consistent with that?
That's a really great question, Rach. I just decided this is what I was going to do. For the first year of the Black Equity Podcast, I said, we're going to have an episode every weekday, no matter what. And so I just had to make sure it got done. Now, the second season, I'm pulling back a little bit. It's not going to be every day. It's going to be a few times a week. I want to put something out when it's relevant and when it's timely. But that first year, I wanted to really let everybody in the culture know that we're here and we're not going anywhere. So I wanted to put it out every day.
I love it. Every episode, you are dropping so much information. You have amazing guests come on your show. And if you haven't listened to Black Equity Podcast, make sure you tune in because there's something that you can take from every single episode. Like, no lie, every episode, I'm learning something. So I appreciate you for doing that. And your consistency is just amazing.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks. I strive for it. So before we get into my two little topics, just kind of introduce yourself so that everybody knows who you are, and then we'll get it going.
Sure. I'm DJ Moultrie of the Black Equity Network. I am a private investor and a deal maker consultant. I work with business owners to bring additional acquisitions to their company, or I work with business owners who are looking to sell their company and are looking for someone to acquire their company. On the podcast side, we put out Black Equity Podcast the December 25th of 2018. And the goal is to talk about what's going on in the Black community from an economic standpoint and how economic justice is important and threaded throughout all sectors of our culture. And so it's always some sort of understanding of economics, even if we're talking about a topic that has nothing to do with money. I believe that money is somehow involved. There's something dealing with money in that conversation, and I want to reveal what that is on every episode. So I'm glad that we've had the support that we've had, and we look forward to putting out more episodes for season 2 for 2020.
Definitely looking forward to it. I know you've got great content, and like I said, it's something to be learned with every single episode. Even if you don't apply it to your life, as long as you have some sort of knowledge behind it, you might be able to use it later. So today we'll be talking about the importance of financial literacy, because it definitely sounds like you are literate in finances. And then let's also talk about building equity, what that really means, because I think sometimes people get it confused of what equity really is and how they can build it. But before we do that, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. I get into a little bit of pop culture, but I kind of been in and out of watching the Aaron Hernandez Netflix documentary. Have you seen it?
Yes, ma'am, I have. Every episode.
I keep falling asleep. So like mid second, not because it's boring, but because I just can't control my eyes. Sometimes I'm tired.
Wow,
so it is very sad to hear his story and to see you know, how he was failed in so many ways leading up to who he became. Sports really takes advantage of our youth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to hear your thoughts behind that.
That's big because, well, here's my thoughts about the documentary. I haven't even spoken on it. I was kind of debating, am I going to do an episode around this documentary or not? 'Cause a lot of what my process is let me consume what's going on in the culture, and
Mm-hmm.
then if it feels relevant, I want to talk on it for 20 or 30 minutes. And although this did feel relevant, I was trying to figure out, well, how does this get threaded throughout our community?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that I took kind of took me back, and I didn't really follow the case at the time, was the notion that so many people were supporting him, not knowing if he was guilty or innocent,
Mm-hmm.
and it was based off of them simply being fans of a team.
Right.
And I think I saw that in the first or second episode, and I noticed how far fandom can get you in our culture. It gives you a lot of leverage to, in many ways, brainwash people to support you, even if they don't even know what the truth is. I mean, there are avid people, standing outside the courtroom and showing up to support him without any of the facts, without knowing any of the situation. And it doesn't just, begin and end with Aaron Hernandez,
Mm-hmm.
but then it also goes to O.J. Simpson and other trials in the past where it's like, because you're a fan of a sport, this person gets more leeway than anyone else. So
Right.
that was one of my first things that took me back. And then a second thing was, so Aaron Hernandez, his wife, and her sister, uh, they are in the middle of this thing, but yet the documentary never touches on the relationship between the two sisters. And to me, if I'm doing a documentary about this story, what is vital to me, and I remember even listening to the Joe Budden podcast, and they were breaking it down too, and
Mm-hmm.
they touched on it as well. Why aren't we hearing from these two sisters that are in the middle of this? Because the other sister was either involved or married to the person that was murdered, and so they have a direct correlation with each other, but yet we hear nothing, from that other side. I would love to know what was really going on behind closed doors.
Right.
But other than that, um, something else that stood out to me towards the end was CTE
Yes.
and how possibly, and this is where I think the black equity shows up, possibly CTE could have caused um, enough brain damage to cause Aaron Hernandez to act erratically or act out in a way, and we're even seeing that now with the former Steelers wide receiver. I can't think of his name, and then he went to Oakland, and then he played one game at the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
He's going through a situation now where he's being arrested, and his behavior has been erratic, and people have been looking at some of his film tapes and realizing, wow, he got hit a lot in his head as well. Could there possibly be something to these concussions, the CTE? So where does the black equity come in? Well, you mentioned it. You said, are these athletes being taken advantage of? And the question would be, who's taking advantage of them? Is the NFL putting these people in harm's way? And do they have information that would lead to knowing that, hey, CTE could cause someone to behave in a certain type of way? And are they holding that information? Because when the movie Concussion came out starring Will Smith, they were trying to stop the movie from coming out. They were trying to take things out of that movie.
Mm.
I wonder who's hiding what and how much money is involved in this. If people were to find out that CTE could basically change your entire life, how many football players would actually walk away from the sport if they knew that?
Right. And it's even before the NFL. Let's talk about college sports and what he had to go through, in college, playing hurt. Even before then, you play hurt. high school.
Yeah.
You play hurt.
Hmm.
They're shooting these kids up with, these chemical steroids in order to subdue the pain so that they can keep playing, and not really caring about their health, but caring about the image of the school and making sure that they get the dollars that's needed. So they're definitely taking advantage of these players. And really, this contact sport is one of the biggest that where people are taking advantage of and controlled the most. One thing I wrote was that society gives our celebrities and sports players a sense that they are untouchable. Now, although he may have suffered from CTE, yes, he may have. I really do believe that. But at the same time, the behaviors that he got away with and the things that the NFL did to kind of hide him or, give him a space where he wasn't in public eye, they were helping him. They knew what was going on. They knew they needed a Super Bowl to win, and they knew they needed him. So they're at fault also. Everybody around him is at fault, because as you see how his behavior had gotten worse over time, what was anyone doing? Nothing. They just wanted him to play. His mom just wanted the $1 million. That's it. So, I feel like he was set up for failure. He was the meal ticket for everybody. And that doesn't discount what he did. But, let's look at all these players out there, the way they do act. And I don't know if you were the guy that you said went from Oakland, because I'm not sure of the players and where they went.
Aaron Brown. I think it's Aaron Brown.
Aaron Brown.
I believe.
Who's the guy that has issues with the helmet? Is that a different person?
Yeah, that's the same guy. I may have the name wrong, but same guy.
Yes. And so, you kind of got to step back and look at these people and see, why are they acting like this? So it's just kind of the whole documentary, from what I saw from being awake, it was shocking, because I didn't follow the case like that either. I would just hear about certain things and see it on social media, but I didn't know that he, shot up a car. He shot his friend in the face. And I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? This is crazy. He was just out there living his life, doing things, punching people in ears, and just getting away with it. Society made him feel that he was untouchable. Period.
And his name is Antonio Brown. And as of right now, he's been released after posting a $110,000 bond. So that's the current NFL player in question that people are saying, well, does he have some type of CTE problems? But back to your point, the NFL is set up in a way, and not just NFL, but sports in general is set up in a way where it's a hierarchy of society. And we look up to these people, sometimes physically because they're taller, but more importantly, culturally. We look up to these people. My question is why? And I know we may not be able to answer that, but I don't understand why we look up to athletes to be our heroes when they're just human beings playing a game. And I understand most of it is branding, to be honest with you. Most of it is the marketing and branding behind sports that drives in the necessary dollars for ticket sales, for jerseys. They sell you heroes.
Yeah.
It's really their job as a league to sell you the hero image. Even Nike and Sprite and all these other people, they're going to sell you the hero, and then your responsibility or your reaction is either to buy into the hero or decide not to buy in. And if they can get enough people to buy into that hero facade, then they brainwashed you to believe in it. But none of it's true. They're just regular people. They're just regular human beings.
They are. So, they definitely glorify, that position in every way, not knowing what they really truly go through as human beings. And so they're not allowed to show what really goes on, the pains that they really have to, endure. That's why they don't want, they wouldn't want that concussion documentary to come out, because that will then kind of show people in a light of, these are actual humans. These are not people just for your entertainment, but they have a body that hurts. They get brain damage. All these things happen. And when I was watching the documentary and they showed like one of the college games, I'm talking about every single seat was full. I'm like, they're making so much money. They're making so
That's
much
true.
money. And of course they're not paying the players. They get their schooling and everything taken care of, but they're making a lot of money off those ticket sales, just strictly off of ticket sales, not off of merch, off of the ticket sales, filling every seat. And they're relying on these players to fulfill their dreams of being the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of pressure on these players. And so they put their bodies through things that they might not have normally chose to do, because who wants to live like that?
Yeah,
Unless they
I
feel
agree.
like they're like, who wants to let a whole school and all these fans down? That's a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure. And for many people, they see this as their only way to being successful is to
Mm,
play football. And so they get that opportunity to go to the pros, but the high percentage of them never do.
mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of times it's a mirage in the middle of a desert. And only a few selected people end up making it to the other side and really finding that pot of gold.
Right.
If they can even get there, if they're even healthy enough, to make it there. So there's definitely something in society we have to pay attention to on a large scale.
We do. Um, you know, I really need people to stop conditioning their children to think that sports, rapping, and those types of things are the only way that they can be successful and their only way out. It's kind of like a get rich quick scheme. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
instead of saying, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to put in the work, oh, I know if I go to the NFL and I make it to the NFL, I'm going to get this deal. That it's a get rich quick scheme. And that doesn't last forever, as
I
we
agree.
can see.
I agree.
So I definitely, kind of want people to pay attention to not just Aaron Hernandez, but the different things that contributed to his journey. It's a lot of things that contributed to it. And there's a lot of things that are at fault, and he's not the only one. We put a lot of pressure on these kids, these mothers out, these not just mothers, but families out there expecting, this son to make it to the NFL and take care of the family. And that's not fair.
I agree.
Not fair at all. So if they have financial literacy and know how to build equity,
Uh huh.
they may not have to be worried about putting their children through so much pain
I
and
agree.
pressure. So I know that you said that you started the podcast in 2018.
Sure.
What made you start your podcast, and why
Ooh.
podcasting?
Wow. 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 We're about to get into some truth today. All right. So
Good.
let's break this down for everybody that's listening. The reason why I started Black Equity Podcast is because I looked around in the culture, and at the time I didn't know about Melanin Boulevard, but I
Hmm.
looked around in the culture, and I didn't necessarily like what I saw. I did not like the podcast that I saw. I did not like the content that I saw. I thought it lacked substance, and I thought it lacked depth.
Hmm.
Um, and not to say that those podcasts and what I saw were bad. I just didn't see enough balance,
Hmm.
and I think that's the best way to put it. And so I said, well, I can't just sit back and complain about it and say, well, I don't like it, and then that's it. I had to figure out, well, what would I do differently? What what is I found that in life, whenever you find something that you don't like, then that's an opportunity for you to fill that void with something that you do like. And
Right.
so, what I wanted to have were conversations about equity. Now, here's the thing about equity, it's not just monetary. Equity to me, and I don't know the exact definition, I don't have it in front of me, but to me, equity could be in a form of ownership of a company. It could be in a relationship, relational equity. It can also be in a form of buy-in. And what I mean by buy-in is if somebody else is doing great, I'm going to benefit from that. And
Hmm.
we talked about Aaron Hernandez earlier. A lot of people had equity in Aaron Hernandez by just being his friend.
Right.
There was a relational equity. There was some type of buy-in to that. And so back to the podcast point, I wanted to have conversations around equity. So that meant sometimes we're going to talk about business. Sometimes we're going to talk about things that had nothing to do with business, but really money makes the world go around. And I wanted to find out, how was money impacting college athletes? How was money impacting, the court system, the educational system? I wanted to see how money was playing a hand in all of this and impacting the community. And so I sat out and I said, okay, we're going to put out episodes from all different walks of life into 5 different sectors. The sectors included economics,
Hmm.
it included the justice system, it included the media, it included politics, and it included education. Now, this comes from the school of thought from Claude Anderson, who wrote a book, or Dr. Claude Anderson, my apologies, wrote a book called Powernomics.
Hmm.
So this isn't something I brought up on myself, but it's just something that I studied. And in that book, he talks about how these are the core areas of community development for the Black community. And he says it all must begin with economics. We have to understand our economics before we can take care of these other core areas. And so I wanted to start having those conversations to balance out the podcast space.
Hmm.
And so it was funny because as I did it, then I started seeing other people, not because they necessarily saw my podcast, but it just so happened other people were stepping in and filling that void too, which was perfect because then those people could be, on the podcast as well.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people were noticing there wasn't enough variety, there wasn't enough balance. And so people began stepping in. And I'm so grateful that, we went on this journey so far.
Definitely. I love, yeah, there definitely needs to be a balance. We love entertainment, but we do need things with more substance. It's all about a balance. So when it comes to financial literacy, for the people out there, if they don't know anything about finances or anything like that, where would you tell them to start?
Ooh, wow. Okay. So if you don't know about finances, where would you start? I would say start with self. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
Because before we can even understand finances or anything like that, we have to understand who you are and why you exist. And until you know that, really nothing else really matters. All the budgeting, all the saving, all that stuff, the real estate, all the stuff the gurus and all that stuff talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, I am not your guru. That's not what I'm here for. All I am is someone who paid attention to the game and the system, and I want to shed light on what I've seen. And so, back to this idea of self. Why do I say you have to understand self first? Because I need you to value yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Before anything else, if you don't value yourself, it really won't matter about financial literacy or anything else, because you're not properly putting things out into the world that are able to be monetized, because you don't see any value in what you do and your actual gifts. So, so the first thing I would say to financial literacy is, how much do you value you?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you value the things that you can bring to the world? Okay, so now that we've decided, okay, I do value myself, I am valuable. Well, now we got to protect that. If you are valuable, just being you, you ain't even done nothing yet. You may not have a job, you may not have made any money, but you're valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we got to protect you. And so I actually spent a year selling life insurance. And life insurance, going through that process is so huge for me because I understood that the basis of all understanding is you got to protect yourself before anything else.
Right.
Before you go out in this world, you have to protect yourself because at any moment, life can be taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't value yourself, it won't matter if life is taken away from you, at least not to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that you value yourself, and we're talking about life insurance. So my biggest thing is protection. To me, the number one thing in financial literacy is protection. And the best way to protect yourself is through knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do we get this knowledge from? Because people are talking about Dave Ramsey and this person and that person. I'm not going to necessarily recommend a specific person that you need to go listen to. But what I will say is you need to start finding out about particular subjects that matter to you. Now, what are some of those subjects in the financial literacy part? Well, I would encourage you to figure out, well, how do I monetize my gifts?
Hmm. That's
How
important.
do that's very important. How do I protect how do I protect that thing that I come up with to monetize it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those who don't know, when I'm talking about protection, I'm talking about patents and copyrights. I'm talking about intellectual property. These are things that I want you to start looking up and researching and paying attention to. Most people, though, when they start talking about financial literacy, they're going to start talking about saving, budgeting. But what are you saving? If the conversation begins at let's talk about saving, but
Mm-hmm.
we ha- we haven't told them how what to get to
Where's
save
the money
anything.
coming from? Where?
Where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing I want people to walk away from on this episode is the money's coming from you.
Mm-hmm.
The money's coming from inside of you and your brain and how you think and how you process this world. Now, one of the best ways to be able to process and make money off of your own value is to have a sense of awareness of the things that are around you. Because a lot of people are just kind of floating through life.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
They they've stopped thinking, and so when they stop thinking, they'll just accept anything.
Mm.
They'll accept a salary in order to kill their actual dream. And for many people, the scary thing is they have no dreams. So
Yeah.
then that's the second thing I would push for. So you got your awareness. I want you to be aware of your surroundings. I want you to pay attention to everything that surrounds you. And then I'm gonna get to the second thing, which is having a dream. But let me get back to awareness. So if you're driving down the street, you see a McDonald's or you see what's a good restaurant in Las Vegas that's popular?
Right now, Chick-fil-A. We
Okay,
gonna say Chick-fil-A.
well, that's global. We can do Chick Fil A.
Mm-hmm.
So they're seeing Chick Fil A. They're driving by it. Maybe they have some money in their pocket. They're getting Chick Fil A. They're getting those nuggets. They're getting that chicken sandwich. They pay their $8.99 and they walk out. And what I'm saying is stop everything. You just went to Chick Fil A, which is on a corner lot in one of the busiest streets in the city. How do I
Mm-hmm.
know that? Because Chick Fil A is more of a real estate company than it is anything else.
Hmm.
So you just walked on $1 million lot and you went to a quarter $1 million building and opened up a door that was at least about $50, probably a glass door. Everything that you're walking through is money or value of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That chicken that got there through some type of truck delivering it. That's called logistics. Someone at a chicken farm, and by the way, I did an internship, an agricultural internship, where we studied the loan processing for chicken farms.
Mm.
And so I'm not just talking about chicken just to be talking about it. This is real.
Mm-hmm.
So there's chicken farms where chicken farmers are making money to sell their chickens to the highest bidder. And one of those bidders is going to be Chick fil A or the company that owns Chick fil A.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the key there because now we're talking about awareness. Chick fil A may not be owned by Chick fil A. There may be a bigger company. For example, KFC, uh, Taco Bell, they're owned by, last time I checked, they're owned by Yum Brands.
Mm.
And I think it's KFC and Taco Bell. They're owned by Yum Brands. So sometimes what you see is not actually who the owner is.
Right.
Now, in front of me, I don't remember if Chick fil A owns Chick fil A or somebody else owns Chick fil A, but more than likely, somebody else, another name, probably some type of holding company, owns Chick fil A. Why am I saying all this? Because I need you to be aware, because across from Chick fil A are other restaurants, and across from there are other opportunities. Everybody on that street where that Chick fil A is making money somehow. How did they begin making money? They saw how valuable they were.
Mm-hmm.
They had a sense of awareness of if I put this Chick fil A on this street and we put a system in place, we can make money forever. That's why Chick fil A always has the longest lines.
They
They have a
do.
system that is that is working. and they know that the chicken's going to be high quality. I'm going to get it within 5 or 7 minutes, depending, on the day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be fresh, and it's going to taste wonderful, and it's going to be a lot more convenient than me trying to figure out how I'm going to cook it, and it's not even going to taste as good as Chick-fil-A's. So they built a system. So that's a part of the awareness picture that I need people to have.
Mm-hmm.
But so the next thing is, okay, you have awareness, you're paying attention to the game. Now you got to have a dream. You're walking up and down Las Vegas, or I'm in Charlotte, so you're walking up and down Charlotte, and you're paying attention to the game that's out here. You see it. What's your dream? Your dream may not be to own Chick-fil-A. So you got to pay attention to the full gamut that's out here and decide, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm valuable. I know I'm now aware that there's money being made in every single building on that street, and if money is not being made, that business will close down.
Right.
And if you drive up and down the street and you see going out of business or now for sale, that means that person or that company did not strategically position themselves correctly, and the people have spoken and decided not to give them the necessary capital to stay in business.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody in that city is voting with their dollars.
True.
The true financial literacy is not about saving and budgeting. It's about understanding the value of a dollar. It's about understanding that every single person that comes through your store is valuable because you're there to serve them, and in return, you're going to get profits.
Right. One thing you said, where people settle and they take a salary over, going after their dream.
Yes.
Now, it's kind of something that I go back and forth with a couple people, and they feel like when people say, use your 9 to 5 to fund your dream, or they try to make it seem as though entrepreneurs are making people who work 9 to 5 feel bad about being okay with working a 9 to 5. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So make sure I understand. Are some entrepreneurs are out there making those who work a 9 to 5 feel bad? Am I understanding that correctly?
So yeah, so there's this conversation going where there's like these posts that go up that say use your 9 to 5 to fund your dream or whatever the case may be. But
Yes.
when these entrepreneurs get in these positions and they're kind of pitching whatever they're selling, and trying to make people really go after their dream, not downing those 9 to 5 people, but trying to open their eyes and say, you can have more. And the argument is not everyone can be an entrepreneur. There has to be some people who are okay with just working the job, because these entrepreneurs will need employees, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Can everybody be an entrepreneur? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody can be an owner. See, not everybody can operate a business or operate a physical business, but they can be an investor or owner of that business. So on the simple basis, let's pull everything away, and let's say we're walking down that same street and there's the Chick-fil-A, and you walk in and everybody has shoes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has shoes on. There's Nikes, there's Reeboks, there's Adidas, there's Puma, all these great brands. Instead of you, I don't know, wasting money on this, and this, you could be buying stock in some of these
Mm-hmm.
companies. Instead of you buying the shoes, you could be buying the stock in the shoes.
Right.
And then now you become part owner of that company. And so, can everybody be an entrepreneur? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody could be an owner of something.
Hmm.
And the most important thing is to be an owner of something that's going to pay you dividends.
Right.
That's the beginning of an equity talk. Because if I have ownership in a Netflix, if I have ownership in a Nike, if I have ownership in these publicly traded companies, And especially if they give out dividends, I'm going to start receiving a kickback for having ownership of that company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not just on that side, but you can also have ownership of an actual company and have somebody else run the company. Have a vice president or a manager run the company because you may not be the best person to run a business,
Right.
but you can position yourself to own it.
Right.
Some of the best owners, they find people who are smarter than them
To
in
run it.
order to run the business, and they just make sure that the right people are in place to get it done.
Mm-hmm. That's what 50 Cent said, something to that effect. He said something like, I didn't have to go to Harvard to run a business, but I hire people who went to Harvard or, whatever. So, yes, he's a businessman. And no, he's not necessarily just running the business, but he puts people in position to where he can be successful in business.
Yes, but you have to see yourself as that in order to walk in that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that you are what it is that you are looking for. You have to see that I am an investor, I am a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
and then that take that curiosity and start researching and figure out, well, how do I do that? One of the best questions you can ask is how. How do I get that done?
Mm-hmm.
How do I become an investor? How do I become a business owner? Once you start asking how, then take that curiosity, and everything is right there in front of you on a special thing called internet search engine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which search engine because believe it or not, there's more than one.
Yes, there
A
is.
lot of people think that there's only this one internet search engine, but really there's thousands of them, and they're all making good money. So I want you. That's one of that awareness things I want people to realize. So you can use an internet search engine of your choosing, and you can type in, "How do I own a business? How do I buy stock in Nike? How do
Mm-hmm.
I receive dividends from stock investing?" Start researching and figuring out, well, what fits what you want to have. Now, in order to know what fits, you have to sit down and write down what it is that you're looking for. What is your dream? What is your vision? Because those without vision will perish. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to know, where am I going? What am I trying to do? So some of the things you may write down is, I want to own $1 million worth of stock. I want to own two businesses. And so once you start finding, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, then it's your responsibility to start researching and finding, that information, and then potentially linking up with people that can help you get to that next level.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where people get stuck, is even if they think that they can run a business, they feel that
Okay.
it's their business and they don't need help from anyone else. When you were talking about after you started your podcast, you started seeing other podcasts with the same focus, right? And
Yes.
instead of feeling like, I'm just going to do my thing over here and mind my business, you created a bridge between people with a likeness. So that goes for so many things in life. Um, you know, in a business, you reach out to somebody that can help you or that can guide you in a way that you can be successful instead of trying to keep it to yourself and do it on your own and maybe eventually failing. So I think a lot of it, when it comes to financial literacy, there's a lot of important parts that we may need to research. But when you said that you have to reflect on self, I was just like, that is absolutely true. We have to reflect on ourself. We have to set our mindset to where we can be successful and change the way that we think. Instead of buying those Jordans, $200 shoes and, the Kanye West shoes, how about taking that money and investing in that? You could take maybe the four pairs of shoes that you would buy from Jordan and use that and invest in the company and get that back.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I want people to be also careful, because if you go into this and you say, I'm looking for answers on financial literacy, what
Hmm.
you'll end up finding is thousands of people on Instagram that will sell you courses on financial literacy, and they'll sell you on the idea of finances. And you still haven't done the whole self thing yet. You haven't done the, who am I yet. And
Hmm.
so you're still being sold to. And so you'll go buy $1,000 course here, you'll go buy a $5,000 thing here, and you'll think that that's the answer. And there may be some answers within that. There may be some wisdom picked in that, but you still haven't defined you yet. So you
Mm-hmm.
may not be on the right frequency of what your best strengths are.
Right.
One of the best things that helped me out was I took a thing called My Genius Test. It was mygenius.com or mygeniusu.com,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And that genius test told me through the algorithms the things that I'm the strongest at. And so what it told me was I was a creator
Mm-hmm.
and that I was able to create worlds and create opportunities for others. And I said, "Oh, that's perfect to know." Instead of spending my time, because there's 4 or 5 other types of geniuses that they mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of spending my time trying to do this, this, and this, let me just focus on what I do great, and then bring people around me that can fill in the holes of where I'm not the strongest.
Right.
And as you mentioned earlier, a lot of people are afraid to admit, like, okay, I'm not strong in this area. But that is really your vulnerability is where your strength is.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to know where those vulnerabilities are. But you won't know your vulnerabilities unless you know what you're strong at.
Right. That's true. I took that test too. I remember you sent it to me and we got the same thing. And so when I saw it, I was like, that makes sense because that is what I'm good at. I've always been good at creating something from nothing and helping people, reach their destination. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, let's touch on that real quick. Every single episode that you have is like a blank canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And so if everybody that listens to your episode goes back and let's just go back and listen to episode 1 all the way through, all those are blank canvases. And prior to the episode being released, there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you had an idea of I'm bringing this guest on, or this guest had an idea of contacting you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what you create is just an opportunity for others to be themselves.
Right.
And so depending on what the situation is, that may have led to an episode being created, and then boom, you release it to the world.
Right.
And so you are creating on every episode, among the other things that you're doing as well. And so, yeah, you are a creator, and a lot of people who are creators don't even realize it until a lot later in life. So I'm
Right.
glad that you were able to, to really see, like, okay, I can really create anything at any time.
Yep, and that's true. I saw this post on Instagram. One of the it's like a podcast community or they do these events. And they said, when you're a blogger or when you are a podcaster, that's not just what you are. We're content creators because I don't just call
And that's part of it.
myself, a podcaster. I create content and in order to be a podcaster, that's exactly what you need. So more people are kind of adopting that term versus saying, I just write blogs. No, you create content. You're creating something out of nothing. So I think, that's something that we just need to understand.
And to push back just even more, I want to raise it just another level. You aren't just a content creator, you create worlds.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally, within a snap of a finger, you can create a whole reality for yourself.
That's true.
And that's what the idea of you don't necessarily have to be in the business to own it.
Mm-hmm.
You can own a business, put other people in place. Now you created this empire, and nobody may even know you own it.
DJ Super.
And that's what I mean by, and matter of fact, to start a business, it only takes maybe 15 minutes to actually, create it by doing the documents,
Right.
So boom, you can create businesses within seconds. But the kind of businesses I'm talking about are already existing. They've been around for 10 or 15 years. You can create an opportunity to acquire these businesses. Now, it's important to talk about this when we're talking about financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the poor teach their children how to buy. The rich teach their children how to sell.
Mm.
And the wealthy teach their children how to acquire. Now, with this information, as you're going through your IG, your Twitter, I need you to pay attention. A lot of people are trying to get you to buy from them. They want you to buy, buy, buy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that quote, it will save you so much heartache. The poor will teach their children how to buy. The rich will teach their children how to sell. There are other people out there that are putting courses out, how to sell this, and how to do this, how to monetize this.
Mm-hmm.
Great, all that's awesome. But that's what the rich do, and there's nothing wrong with being rich. But I want you to be wealthy. And so,
Right.
what do the wealthy do? They teach their children how to acquire. Now, what does acquire mean? Acquire means that something already exists, and now I have ownership and access to it. It's already cash flowing. It's already making money. From the moment I have it in my possession and it's now mine, it's valuable from the day that I have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important distinction between acquiring and buying and selling. You have to understand the difference between the three if we're talking about financial literacy. Most financial literacy people aren't talking about that. They're talking about budgeting, they're talking about saving, and they're talking about stacking up a little bit of money so that you can go get some type of real estate deal. And then
Mm.
take that real estate deal and get another real estate deal. And it's cool, but it's to me it's not the ultimate focus. By the way, my master's is in acquisitions,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not talking about this and from some type of guru, making this all up. No, I literally sat and looked at the coursework, and I understand that this is what the wealthy do. They
Mm-hmm.
acquire, and so I need people to start thinking in that and look up what acquisitions is, mergers and acquisitions, because that game is one of the most untapped markets out there.
Hmm. Wow. That's some good information. Something definitely that I'm going to have to check into, of course. So
I
we
got you.
have
I got your back.
we've got awareness. No, we got
Yeah.
self, right? Awareness.
I would start with self and then awareness and then having a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have that dream, now this is going to be important, very important, action.
Mm-hmm.
To see a lot of people, they know who they are. And they're very aware of what's going on in this game. And they got a dream, but then they're still dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Now the key is action.
Right.
You have a dream of doing X, Y, Z. Now put those 1 to 3 steps in place to make that thing happen. Most people get stuck at number one, whatever that action item is. If you can get that ball rolling, it's going to create something called momentum.
Yes.
And once you have momentum, things, the universe will conspire to make it happen. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. And it talks about how when you decide something, the universe is going to bend to your will.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to kind of put a little bit of, just a little bit into it in order for it to start manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
You started a podcast. I started a podcast. We were complete strangers.
Yeah.
And then now here we are creating an episode together out of thin air. This episode will go down as one of the greatest episodes in Black culture history.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't even know each other over a year and a half ago.
Right. Right. That's
We
true.
we we created value. We had an awareness of what was out here, and then we had a dream. Okay, let's put this vision into place. And we can also take dream and you can also call it vision. Either one, dream, vision, are the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put the action in. And now Black Equity Podcasts, Melanin Boulevard, stand as staples within this culture.
Right.
But we had to put the work in. We had to create the episodes. We had to do the marketing. We had to do the networking. But
Mm-hmm.
now it is real and it is alive and it's very valuable to the people that listen.
That's true. It definitely is. Um, Everything you said is always amazing. Like, I love talking to you because you always come with some real stuff that I can be like, I'm gonna write that down and I'll touch on that when I can. But it's always really great information, and
Thank you.
you have the background to back it up. It's not just something you speculated. It's something
Exactly.
that you've studied, some things that you've
Yes.
experienced. So, for everybody listening out there, take this information, and I definitely had some gems dropped in my hand. I rather acquire than to sell. So that's
Yeah.
something where mindset has to be shifted into what you want. So I want to create wealth. I just don't want to be rich. So those are some things that it's like little things that you can do that can change the whole dynamic of, the legacy that you leave behind.
Yeah, and the ultimate thing around all of this is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to it, when we take everything away, the reason why I need you to understand yourself first is because I need you to value yourself so much that there's nothing that someone else can pay you that would make you compromise your integrity.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get to that value system, that doesn't mean you can't work a 9 to 5. That doesn't mean you can't still work, work for someone else. But I still need you to value yourself while you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll never leave it. You got to have a plan. It reminds me of the Dame Dash original Breakfast Club interview. And I saw recently he showed back up on the Breakfast Club, and they were kind of joking about that first time that they talked 5 years ago and how it shifted the culture. And
Mm-hmm.
he spent a lot of time on the Breakfast Club saying, I want you to own. I want you to understand I do this for my last name, not my first. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to value freedom. And so I'm coming back to you 6 years later after Dame Dash has said it, and I'm reconfirming what he said is true. In order to have freedom, you have to value yourself so much that you value your last name as much as you value Warren Buffett's,
Mm-hmm.
as much as you value the Hilton. If you stay at a Hilton hotel, that's somebody else's last name. I need
Mm-hmm.
you to value your last name as much as you value everybody else's last name that is making money off of you. Trump Tower, all these last names, Heinz Ketchup. These people have made money off of you valuing them.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can make money off of you valuing them, imagine how much money you can make off of you valuing you.
Right. Well, that's something that you want, everybody. Can you let everybody know where they can find your podcast? And I don't know if you have another business page, because I know that you said that, you have where you help businesses. So just let everyone know
Sure.
where they can find you.
Sure. So if you want to catch some of our new episodes that are dropping, you can head over to Apple, iTunes, Spotify, major areas where you listen to podcasts, and type in Black Equity Podcast. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, let us know what you think. You can also follow us on IG at Black Equity Network. And actually, I would love for everyone within your network, if they're interested, to join our network. They can
Mm-hmm.
text Black Equity to 669-238-2434. That's once again 669-238-2434. Now, what does that do? That gets you into our Rolodex of business owners and investors. And every time there's an opportunity that somebody sends to us and it's appropriate, we're going to send it out to everybody who's text Black Equity to 669-238-2434. And if you want to connect with me personally, I would go to LinkedIn and look me up on LinkedIn at DJ Moultrie, and send me a message, and let's figure out how we can show you how to acquire and work together to build your portfolio.
I love it. I need to set myself up a LinkedIn. I have one. It's
Yeah,
really
we need to
bad.
do that immediately.
I'm like, another one. I don't even know what to say on there. I really wanted to thank
Uh,
you for
you're
taking
welcome.
time out, for real. I really do, and giving us good information for the free, but time ain't free. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow, and definitely text that number so that you can get that information. And I want my reviews too, so you can go ahead and give me my reviews. And don't forget to tell your friends, tell their friends, and then maybe we could be friends to tune in every Thursday to Melanin Boulevard. All right. Bye, you guys.